Welcome to the Nest Podcast, your weekly home for sports news, video game reviews, and hot takes with your hosts, Brandon, Zach, and Justin. Enjoy the show.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nest Podcast. This is episode 105, presented by Sportszilla. I'm Brandon. Joining me from his cell phone is my co-host, Zach. Zach, what's up, man?
Hey, getting a storm and keeps knocking out our power, so this is all we got.
This is what we got for the night. You know, whenever you have a live show that you try to put out on the internet and stuff like that, there's always a technical difficulty. We always have some sort of issue. This is the first time we've ever had a power outage kind of delay us or whatever, but we're here and we're good to go. So last night around 10 o'clock midnight, somewhere in that ballpark, a bunch of college athletes got together and they started talking about the potential that college football was going to get canceled. Luckily, they didn't have storms interrupting them because it sounds like they had a pretty productive meeting. And the things that are coming out of it are pretty insane, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. Most notably, Trevor Lawrence came out and with those several tweets of basically their demands, if you will, and his thoughts on the whole thing.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about, the star-studded Zoom call. Of course, you mentioned Trevor Lawrence, and he was kind of the main guy of the whole deal. But Justin Fields from Ohio State, Najee Harris from Bama, and a bunch of others from basically representatives from all the Power Fives and a lot of the big schools that are out there all kind of came together and had their input on this call. And basically, they said, first and foremost, they want to play, which is good news for college football fans, but bad news that it's just the players saying that and not the people that actually are making the decisions whether or not they're going to be on the field. They want universal COVID-19 protocols, which I agree with. I think that should be something standard that all of these athletes are striving to have, is some sort of guarantee or some sort of safety measures that they'll at least be taken care of now and in the future, because we don't even know what the long-term lasting effects of coronavirus are. Could it be something that 10 years down the road, you see commercials that are like, were you or a loved one affected by the coronavirus? If so, call the law offices of insert name here. They also want the freedom for players to opt out, which is something interesting in college football, because if you opt out, you're still progressing to the next year. Maybe you would have NCAA eligibility at the end of it, but I mean, a lot of these guys, whenever they become seniors, they're ready to get out of college and go either to the pros or go into the workforce. So I don't know how that's really going to play out. And the most notable one was that they wanted a players union, and that's a big deal because that's something NCAA does not want their players to have.
Yeah, no, and I don't think much of that is going to happen. If they do even have a season, I think they'll definitely put in some COVID protocols. But honestly, that's where the buck stops. I don't think the NCAA is going to bend the knee and give these players all that, because that's way too much power for them to give up. It'd be great for the players, but I don't think NCAA is going to do that.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that that's going to happen either. That's basically them saying, pay us or we're not going to play.
Yeah.
And that's kind of I don't know, man. They've already been pushing hard for getting these player likenesses and all that stuff. Is this a straw too far? And the not the owners, but the presidents of these universities and the NCAA governing body, are they willing to just eat the revenue that they would be coming in to basically say, no, we're not going to let you unionize. We would rather eat $78 million or whatever it is per team in these Power 5 conferences. That's a lot of money for them to say, nah, we don't need it.
Yeah. And I think the short answer for this is that they're going to cancel the fall season. I mean, I think the writing's on the wall. The first Division I conference to do it was the MAC, and we've heard speculation or rumors of the Big Ten floating the idea, and I think it's honestly just a matter of time, because as soon as one of the big Power 5 conferences goes down, the rest will follow, because no one is going to be that guy that made the decision to play and a kid gets COVID and something like that happens. They're going to be, in the public eye, held responsible for that, and no one's going to take that.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking over and I saw that the Big Ten earlier today was reported that they had already voted, and then some news came out later that said no, we haven't actually voted. So believe what you will on that regard, but the early reports were that they had already voted, and it was in 10-2 in favor of canceling the season. And the only two that were standouts that didn't want to cancel was Nebraska and Iowa. So
interesting.
Yeah, and here we got a commenter saying that they heard that they've already officially canceled it as well. So yeah, I heard that. I don't know which is true, but
Yeah.
it definitely sounds like that's the case. And once that one domino falls, like you said, Zach, more sure to follow. So the only thing that we know right now is that SEC, they're basically saying it's different down here. We're going to play football.
Basically, in my opinion, what they're saying is we don't give a shit. SEC football is king, and we're going to do everything we can to play.
And I mean, to that point, like the average amount that the Power 5 schools would lose per team is $78 million. In the SEC, that's closer to $100 million per team. That's a lot of money to just say, no, I don't want it. The chancellor for the University of Tennessee met with all of the players and coaching staff today, and it was a resounding yes that they wanted to play and that they are going to try to move forward with making sure that the SEC has a schedule. So that tells me, maybe the SEC is going to go out and try to poach some of these other teams from these other conferences and say, hey, if y'all want to play, come on in. We'll make a big makeshift grouping. I don't know if you want to call it a conference or if you want to call it just a league or whatever, but we'll take all of the teams that actually want to play that aren't going to be shut down because of the coronavirus or whatever. We'll throw them in there. We'll declare champion out of that. We don't need the BCS. We can do this on our own. Is this going to pave the way for the SEC and other Power 5 schools to band together and start their own business out of this?
I don't know.
Could they move away from the NCAA altogether and just say, you know what, we're tired of getting screwed over by the BCS. We're tired of not getting our representatives in there. We're tired of you giving, our spots to these other schools that don't even want to play in the first place.
Yeah.
We're going to declare our own champion, and it's going to be better than what you've got.
Yeah. At first glance, that sounds like a bit of a stretch, but I mean, if any conference can do that, it's the SEC. I mean, they've been the powerhouse since I don't know how long, for at least 10, 15 years now. And I don't know. I mean, this year opens up a lot of things. And if that does play out, boy, would that be wild. I wonder what sort of legal power the NCAA has over that kind of thing.
I'm not sure. I know that they are pretty loose with a lot of their rules. That's why Notre Dame has been forever allowed to just pick and play whoever they want to, and then they still qualify for BCS title games and stuff like that. So they obviously don't have to be in a strict conference schedule or anything like that. They were supposed to play in the ACC this season with the whole COVID restrictions and all that stuff. But if the ACC is one of those that opts out, do we see Notre Dame join the SEC along with maybe Clemson? That would be something awesome to see. One thing I do know for sure, though, either way, it's Tennessee's year.
We'll see. I mean, if the entire SEC wants to play, and they somehow pull it off, and bring those players in, that would be quite the spectacle. Because if it does work, then they've got the entire college football fan base watching just SEC. But if it doesn't work, then they get to be the laughing stock of the whole sports community and say, well, you're idiots for trying it.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's something that's going to be different and something that we haven't seen ever, because 2020 has been, an animal in and of itself. But I do want to stop and try to play a voicemail. Now, Zachary, you normally are the voicemail guy that has it all hooked up, but without the fancy little apparatus that you have on your computer, you're not able to do that from your phone. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm not going to share my screen because it's got phone numbers listed on it, and I don't want people's phone numbers blasted out on our broadcast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a little away screen and play this on my speakerphone. If it doesn't go over well, then I won't play them all. I'll just kind of play them next week or something like that. But here's the first one. It's from our other co-host, Justin, who couldn't be here tonight. So let's listen to see what he has to say about it.
Boy, oh boy, out of all the episodes that I had to miss, it's the one about college football possibly canceling due to COVID. I'm going to tell you what really grinds my gears. First of all, I can't imagine what I'm going to do with that Tennessee football. I don't. The thought itself, just, I don't know what I'll do, man. It's just crazy to even think about. Secondly, yeah, it might not affect future football programs, but these football teams bring in, I would say, 75% of the money for all school sports. So, start seeing the golf teams go by, start seeing wrestling go by, all these smaller sports, and all the scholarships that come along with them will soon be gone, especially to all the smaller schools. They need to figure something out. If it's about the fans, figure out a way, take a loss on those ticket sales and figure out a way to do something on TV, maybe pick up some ads. There's other ways to get income and show these televised events. A lot of games and a lot of teams, you have to pay for a certain package in order to watch it. If that's the case, then I'm willing to pay to watch my Tennessee Vols play. There's got to be another solution. I think they're just kind of giving up at this point. And if all these little tiny conferences want to drop out, that's fine, but the SEC has to play football. I don't know what the solution is. Move to the spring. I don't know. But a life without football is like a death to a Southerner. So I've got a lot more to say, guys, but I'm going to let you guys go ahead and talk more about it. I hate I couldn't be on there today because I'm sure by the time you guys get started, I'd end up be ready to explode. But bring back college football.
So, of course, that was our co-host, Justin, and he's pretty upset at the idea that college football may not happen this year. And he brings up a good point, and I already see that we got some commenters chiming in that he would be willing to pay for an extra fee or whatever just to be able to get to see his team play to make up some of the lost ticket sales. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's something that should happen because they already have TV deals. You can already see most of these games on the SEC network, on ESPN, on Fox, on CBS. So why pay for extra things when they have it already on your cable plans? But for those games that, maybe it would come to a conflict of interest or whatever, you could just order it on pay-per-view.
I think him and anyone else that is trying to make this happen is completely missing the point. For college, the point is not money. Yes, that's a huge part of NCAA sports is the money of it. But I think that the big sticking point is that the presidents of these colleges are responsible for the health and well-being of the entire university. And they're not going to have a player test positive or an outbreak happen in their school because of their football organization. That's just, they're not going to do that. It has nothing to do with the ticket sales and the this, that, and the other. It's the liability that a college would have to take on for them to play their sports. I get it. Everybody wants to have sports, but we can't force things in certain situations. And like I said, I think if there's one conference that's going to try to force it, it'll be the SEC, because like he said, football in the South is right there next to religion. But it could easily backfire, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, Zach. And it looks like some of our commenters agree with you as well. I know you can't see the comments on your phone, so
I'm trying to get the computer fired up here. We might be okay.
Hey, man, it is what it is. Hey, it wouldn't be a Nest podcast without some sort of technical issues.
Yeah.
So we have a few more voicemails, and feel free, if you guys are watching and want to chime in with your thoughts on a voicemail, go ahead and give us a call and leave that. And we'll get to those at the end of the episode, and we'll kind of respond to them and interact with those a little bit more. But right now, Zach, we need to move into some baseball, because we've got some stuff to cover, and I know you've got some stuff to get off your chest, especially since MLB, just as of about an hour ago, announced that the Cardinals aren't going to play this week either.
Yeah. I'm gonna cut my camera while I get stuff ready here, but you should be able to still see me. Maybe I can't do that. There we go. All right. So yeah, the Cardinals haven't played in about 2 weeks now.
Yeah, they haven't played since I believe it was July 29th, something.
Basically the opening weekend, and then I think they played. Was that it? Was that the only time they played?
They've played 5 games. So they played opening weekend, and then they played Monday and Tuesday of the following week, and then they were done.
Right. And so what was supposed to be the first comeback, if you will, after the positive test was the Cubs series here in St. Louis that was supposed to be on Friday, and that got canceled. And the Cubs said, we're leaving. And I think 2 or 3 more players tested positive, and now they've canceled everything basically up into, I don't know, next week maybe. And at this point, I don't understand what they would be playing for if they were to start up again, because they're so far behind. I don't understand how they're going to be able to make up those games. And I guess maybe if MLB just wants to be idiots and let teams in based on win percentage. I mean, we've got a higher percentage than the Pirates, but we haven't played nearly as many games as the Pirates have. So that doesn't make any sense. And you've got to think about the health and well-being of the entire organization. These players are spreading this disease to God knows who. And not everyone is a young athlete that's in the organization. You've got a huge number of different people that have different, ailments or whatever. And then you've got to think of the physical injuries that can come from sitting in a hotel room for however long, and now they're back at home, but they're damn sure not on the field. And I don't understand how you can ask a pitcher to play 6-7 innings with absolutely no practice. And I mean, it's ridiculous at this point, because like, I have no words for how ridiculous this all is, because there's not been a single word about it from Rob Manfred, as far as I know.
Yeah, he's been pretty quiet about the whole situation, other than about a month and a half ago saying that they would not go forward with the season if the competitive integrity of the league was jeopardized. And then all hell broke loose in MLB, and then he's kind of backed off of that statement and kind of cowered in the corner.
Yep.
You said something in there, Zach, about how you don't think that the Cardinals are going to be able to make up all those games. At this point, they have to play 55 games in 45 days. That's already saying, hey, you're going to play with no breaks. And a lot of those games are going to have to be double headers.
Yep.
A lot of those games are going to be like a night game. And then you're going to have to play early the next day, the 1:00 schedule, just to get all these games in. And if they don't get all the way to 60, then how is that fair to a team that did have to grind out 60 games? How is that fair to a team that had to play and had to adhere to all these protocols and had to do everything the right way? And then the Cardinals would just get rewarded for playing less games. We also have to think about the teams that are having their games postponed because of the Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely. Every single one of their opponents has had to not play their games.
Right. That's 10 less games that the Pirates would normally play. That's 10 less games that the Brewers, the Cubs, everybody in that division are playing less games because of the Cardinals and their inability to stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. It sucks.
Wow, look at that. Zach made the switch while he was talking live. Wow, that's some incredible stuff right there, Zach.
Yep, and I do this for free, people.
That's amazing. We talked about the Cardinals, some of the stuff that a lot of people aren't realizing, and that your manager Mike Schilt just was talking about, was that a lot of the guys had to go to the ER.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard the president, John Mozeliak, say that several people in the Cards organization are greatly affected by this. And he didn't say that there was players, which makes sense. So that goes back to what I was saying. Like, there's people in this organization that are affected by this, and it's not just the players. It's not just the players that have to deal with the repercussions of a outbreak. You're dealing with, I don't even know who. I mean, I don't know how, with the age of the grounds crew or the age of the whoever random job that someone has within the Cardinals organization, that it comes into contact with these players. It's just, it's something that we don't necessarily think about, because as fans, we just want baseball. And I'm right there with everybody. I want to see the Cardinals play, but if it can't happen and it can't happen safely, then there's no point in trying. And at this point in the 60 game season, we've already gotten so far behind. I mean, we're way behind the Marlins, I think, at this point. And what is it all for? Because let's say we do get everything squared away and we kick it off. Jack Flaherty goes out there. He hasn't pitched in a week. He gets 2 days of warm up. He gets a bullpen in or something, and he gets some sort of injury and has to get surgery and is out for an entire year. Well, then that screws up next year's plans too. And to try to finish out some weird 60 game season for what? I don't know. And I don't get it. And I think I'm in the minority. I think a lot of people want to just see them push through and play. I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Like you, I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I do know that there was a pretty decent little brawl that happened over in Oakland on Sunday night.
Yes.
And that made a lot of rounds around the internet today because it involved, surprise, surprise, the Houston Astros. So what did you make of that, Zach? Did you get a chance to see that clip? I'm going to play it right now.
Yes.
So for those of you that didn't see it, this is Ramon Laureano for the A's. He got plunked by a pitch, and then he kind of got into a little spat with that man in the jersey right there, in the blue jersey, is the pitching coach for the Astros.
Yep.
Or not the pitching coach, the hitting coach. I'm sorry. And his name is Alex Citron. And apparently this had been something that had been brewing for a little while. Laureano had been hit 3 times in this series, and this was the second time in this game alone that he got hit. So he was obviously a little bit upset about that, as most people would be if they were getting plunked left and right.
Yep.
Then when he got to first base, he was saying, like, come on, what's your guys' problem, man? Why you keep hitting me? And Citron said something about his mama, which apparently in 2020, your mama joke still can get people set off. So it is what it is. But Laureano ended up charging the Astros, got himself ejected from the game. And now, Rob Manfred's going to come down with his punishments or whatever. Yeah. And he's already said there's going to be suspensions for Laureano, and Citron is going to face a severe punishment for instigating the entire brawl. But it's not like he's been doing a good job as a hitting coach anyway this year, because the Astros batting averages have been atrocious, and he pretty much lost his job when he lost his ability to bang on a trash can lid.
Yeah. I mean, for a coach to instigate something like that, he's got to be
terrible
shit. And it'll be interesting to see what their position or what their punishment is, because Manfred, I mean, it was a slap on the wrist that the entire Astros organization got. So it'll be interesting to see what they give this guy. I'd say no more than a 10-game suspension for the coach.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that. I mean, not that he really does much anyway, like I said, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And for the player, honestly, he has every right to be pissed off. He like you said, he got hit 3 times in the game, and in that entire series, not a single Astros hitter was hit. So the Astros have no reason to be upset about anything. That was wild to me, and the fallout from it is going to be very interesting to see, because it sounds like Manfred is trying to protect the Astros this year, and I get that to a certain extent. You don't want to see vigilante justice just run rampant through your league and just hit guys getting hit and injured and stuff. But for the most part, they've been plunked as you expected, but it's been all in the back and in the ribs and stuff like that. Joe Kelly allegedly maybe threw it at his head, but it was a breaking ball. So, I mean, there's arguments on both sides of that, but honestly, I think the Astros have gotten what they deserved and nothing more. So none of this is surprise.
No, I agree. And, I'm glad that you mentioned Joe Kelly in there too, because I think his suspension was outright egregious for him to get 8 games for essentially just losing a pitch when the guy has a track record of not being able to control him in the first place. I think that's terrible. I mean, if you think back before the season started, when they were in their little shutdown mode or whatever, and I'm going to show a clip here if it'll play, Joe Kelly broke a window in his own backyard throwing a changeup because he was that off with his pitches.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't understand that. And I think maybe Manfred wanted to use him as an example and give him a strong punishment so that might deter other pitchers from intentionally hitting Astros players. But nonetheless, that was ridiculous. 8 games in a 60-game season.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of like a 22-game suspension in a full 162. That's terrible.
But I mean, do you expect any less from Manfred?
No,
not at all at this point.
Not one bit. The only thing that I expect on a daily basis right now around here is that the San Diego Padres are going to hit a lot of home runs, specifically Fernando Tatis Jr. That dude has been on a tear, and I'm here for it, man. I love it.
I love it. I haven't been able to watch the Cardinals, obviously, so I've been really interested in the Padres and the Rockies. The Rockies are on an absolute tear, and man, Tatis is electric.
Oh yeah, it's a great year to not follow your own team if they suck like mine and if they don't play like yours, because you've got the Padres that have been awesome, and like you said, the Rockies. But let me just tell you what the past week has been for Fernando Tatis Jr. On, last Monday, he hit a homer. On Tuesday, he hit a double. On Wednesday, he hit a homer. On Thursday, he gave the rest of the league the night off. He said, you guys can just have this one. They had an off night. On Friday, he led the game off with a homer. On Saturday, he did a deja vu and led the night off with a homer again. And then on Sunday, he hit another freaking home run.
Christ.
The dude has been swinging the hottest bat in the league. He just was named the National League Player of the Week, deservedly so. And I did see a lot of people that were upset that your boy Chuck Nasty wasn't in there, because he, for the week, was batting over 500 and had a couple bombs and a lot of RBIs and stuff like that too. But whenever you blast a home run almost every freaking day of the week, you're going to be the player of that week.
Yeah, especially in the leadoff spot, like that's amazing, and he's freaking wild. I think the If the Padres want to keep him, back the truck up, because he is going to get paid unless he has some sort of ridiculous fall off or something. But I think up next in the shortstop position is going to be Lindor. He's going to get a huge contract. And whenever Tatis's time comes, it's going to be gigantic.
And what's interesting is he's still so young in his career that he could sign an extension, kind of like what the Braves did with Ronald Acuna, and basically lock him up for the next 7-8 years for way less than he'll make whenever he hits his free agency. And then he's demanding that $300 to $400 or $300 to $400 million contract. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And I think if they lock him up with like what the Braves did, and from what I was seeing on Twitter, his dad kind of was talking to somebody, Fernando Tatis Jr., and he said that the Padres and the player were in negotiations right now. So in the next week or so, we might be talking about a massive extension for Mr. Tatis.
Yeah. And I want to remind people of this. When you watch a young electric player like this, he's making $600,000 this year.
Yeah,
it's not chump change, but I mean, he's bottom of the barrel pay wise.
Yep, but he's been the spark plug, and he's been something electric for the San Diego Padres, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome to see because they've been dog trash for so many years.
Oh,
like when I lived out in San Diego and I was going to games, they couldn't give away enough tickets to fill the stadium.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember all the time. I can't remember her name, but anyway, the person that dealt with that stuff, they would always have Padres tickets, like as many as you could possibly have. And people went for the spectacle of it, but anyone that knew anything about baseball knew that they sucked.
I knew that they sucked, but I also knew that I loved baseball enough that I was going to go and watch baseball. Yep. Fun fact, while I was at one of those games that I got to go to for free, I got to see Justin Verlander's first and second career base hits.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
He went 2 for 3 or whatever in the game, and they announced after his first one that was his first career hit. And I was like, dang, Justin's been an MVP of the league, and he just got his first career hit. That's insane. But yeah.
Speaking of pitchers, I also have been paying attention to the Indians, and Shane Bieber has a
nasty
cannon, and he's filthy. He's up there with like Nolan Ryan and names like that for their for the total number of Ks in their first 2 years or whatever. I mean, that's baseball legendary status right there. So
yeah, anytime you get some of those guys in the conversation with your name, you know you're doing something right.
Yep. So he's on fire. It's all around. The league seems to be doing pretty well. I kind of thought that more teams would have an issue like the Marlins and the Cardinals did, but it seems to be going okay. And I think if they can keep this up, and if no one else suffers the same fate, then I think you'll potentially see a full 60 game season kick off without a delay or a postponement or anything. But we'll just see. I mean, we still have a ways to go and an off season to play, or not an off season, but a playoffs to play. So it's all still up in the air, but I kind of expected at this point another team to have an outbreak.
Yeah, I tell you what really worries me is the fact that these guys aren't in a bubble or whatever, that they go home to their wives, their kids, and all this stuff with school starting back and with the wives, going out to do whatever it is that they do or whatever. If they bring it back to the player, then the player brings it to the clubhouse. Yep. And then you're screwed. And we've said it before. If it happens to somebody like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Cubs, one of these big marquee teams, that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah, all hell will break loose if that happens to one of those big teams. It's crazy that's how that works. Like the Marlins, no one gave a shit. The Cardinals, people started, oh man, that's not a scrub. But still, it wasn't enough to mention anything about the league shutting down.
And the Cardinals are a pretty big name team too. That's what's surprising. The Nest podcast is sponsored in part by the Beardstruggle. If you've ever tried to grow a beard, then you know the struggle. We can help you out. The Beard Struggle has tapped into centuries of Viking knowledge to inspire beard growth and overall health. Tap into your inner Viking and check out some of the great beard products available at thebeardstruggle.com. The ultimate kit comes with everything you need to get your facial hair looking fine. You'll get the day and night elixir oils. You're going to get some scruff balm and a beard balm for when it gets a little longer. You're going to get a bottle of beard wash and conditioner, and you even get this savage brush. Guys, throw up our promo code NEST20 at checkout, and you're going to save yourself 20% at thebeardstruggle.com. Believe it or not, Zach, the Red Sox actually won a few games.
I bet you're ecstatic.
Holy hell. It was a good weekend for me. You know, I got to watch baseball. I got to see the Red Sox actually win some games. And yesterday, they had a walk-off win. And you would have thought that I was celebrating Game 7 of the World Series. It was incredible. You know, the one thing that I've noticed, though, about this team that really, really has frustrated me is that the guys that are supposed to be doing it aren't. Andrew Benintendi has not been himself all season. He's going into today's game with a lofty like 0.053 or something batting average. I had it written down somewhere, but I can't see. Oh, 0.059. I'm sorry. Not going to shortchange the man. He needs all the help he can get. And out of the 34 at bats that he's had this season, he struck out 15 times. Jeez. So he's getting up there and he's hacking, but he's missing everything. He's looked really confused on off-speed pitches. It seems like every time he's up to at bat, it's an 0-2 count immediately. And I don't know. I don't know what to do with that guy. But then you also have to look at JD Martinez, who, you know, in years past has been a stalwart of this offense. He's been someone who, yeah, JD's going to come in. He's at least going to get you a double tonight. He's probably going to knock one out of the yard every other night. He hasn't had an RBI since opening weekend.
Yeah, that's wild.
He's yet to hit a home run. Rafi Devers just hit his first home run last night. Like the power guys on this team are not doing it. Xander's been consistent. Mitch Moreland's been the guy that's been popping homers lately. Christian Vasquez got off to a hot start, but he's cooled off. It's been a weird year for them. And then whenever they don't have Nate Eovaldi pitching, it's a crapshoot on how the game's going to go.
Oh yeah, for sure. Your whole starting rotation is just who knows what any given day.
Well, yeah, but you know that is something that's, you know, not because the team is poorly built. It's just injuries. Because, you know, Chris Sale had his Tommy John surgery. Of course, he's out for the year.
Yep. Rod is out with the COVID stuff.
Right. He's got myocarditis, which is inflammation of the heart as a result from his COVID-19 infection that he had, 3 months ago is when he tested positive for that. So it's been a long time and he's dealing with it. And, you know, to our points earlier, let's bring up the point that we were talking about with it not being sure how long it's going to stay in your body, how long it's going to impact you. That's why these college kids are, you know, trying to at least get themselves some kind of protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking of JD, boy, does he not seem worth much these days. I mean,
no,
we talked about it before. If you knew basically that you weren't going to be able to keep Mookie and JD, and somebody was going to get a big contract somewhere else. So that meant that you were going to extend whoever stuck around, and it turned out to be JD. But now with these numbers that he's putting up, I couldn't imagine them giving him a substantial offer. So that begs the question, what are they going to spend their money on? And I think you have an idea of at least what you would want.
Well, I definitely want them to go out and get Trevor Bauer in free agency. That's my number one target in the offseason, is to get him. But you can get him even if you keep JD's salary on there, because he does have an opt-in at the end of the season, so he could stay. I think his contract allows him to stay until 2022. if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's something that the Red Sox are just going to have to eat, or they're going to have to trade him, because I don't see anybody else offering him more to come and play for them with the numbers that he's putting up this season.
No way.
So with that being said, trade deadline is coming up at the end of this month. Would you package JD Martinez to go out and try to get a pitcher that you could have for maybe 2 to 3 years, so that next season you could potentially have Chris Sale, Erod, Trevor Bauer, a player to be named later, and Nathan Eovaldi?
I would have to think that the Reds would want a lot of stuff to give up Trevor Bauer.
He's a free agent at the end of the year. So the Red Sox theoretically could just pay for him at the end of the season, and then he's a Red Sox player for the duration of a contract. What I'm talking about, that player to be named later, would be trading JD Martinez to somebody now in exchange for a guy that has 2 or 3 years left on his contract to bring him in.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth a shot for sure, because you got to get something in that rotation. I don't know. I don't know what you could get for him, though, because like I said, it's not like he's putting up good numbers. So I don't know who would be willing to go for that.
That's the thing, is I think you would almost have to package him in a deal with another player, and potentially, like, if you're a team that is rebuilding, maybe you would take a flyer on getting JD Martinez and Andrew Benintendi for trading a solid, good young arm and some minor leaguers. That would be a Heim Bloom move, in my opinion, because he's there to try to rebuild the farm system, try to get solid pitching. If you remember, Heim came from the Tampa Bay organization, and what are they known for? Pitching.
Yeah.
And pitching at a cheap price.
Yep.
So
did shit, I can't even remember his name now. Why does this always happen? Their ace. What is
who down in Tampa?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Glasnow or Blake Snell?
Blake Snell. Did he end up opting out?
No, he's playing this year.
Okay, so he just made all that stink on Twitch.
Yeah, ooh, that was such a bad look for him to come out and say all that. Ugh.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that is I think that's kind of prominent, that players will come out and say this, that, and the other, and then when it comes down to the brass tacks of it all, they go for it.
They back off real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he didn't think he could get the what is their word for it? The high risk status and get paid for his year. So maybe he just said, screw it, I'll just play. But I wonder if that's what kind of Trevor Lawrence is doing. He's just kind of making a big stink about everything. And then if they were to play and an outbreak happens, he'd be the first one to say, I'm out, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I just think talk is cheap is really what I'm getting at.
Sure. No, I agree. And, that's ultimately what Marcus Stroman did today.
Yeah, that's a funny story.
So for those that don't know, Marcus Stroman, pitcher for the Mets, was on the IL for a legitimate injury, but he was supposed to be coming back. Well, after he accrued enough time in this season on the IL for it to count as a season for his free agency, he just went ahead and said, yeah, I'm opting out. And now he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So essentially, the Mets traded away a quality big leaguer and some minor leaguers for about 30 games of Marcus Stroman.
Crazy.
That's very crazy.
And that's like the Mets in and of itself as a team this year. They just can't do anything.
I'm sorry, I said 30 games. It was actually 11.
Oh, great.
So even better for them.
Right. It sucks. I mean, it sucks for that squad, because they've got some good young electric players. They just can't get anything going. I mean, they've looked pretty bad.
I mean, in the past week, they've had 2 guys just up and opt out on them that they thought for sure were coming back, and nobody had any idea. Yoenis Cespedes, we talked about last week, when he just banished. And then now Marcus Stroman just deucing out on him and then being like, yeah, and I'm definitely going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So, hey, other teams, holler at me.
Yeah. I wonder if there's some uneasy feelings around the ball club because of the whole selling of the league rumors, and you never know who's going to buy the team and what they're going to do. So maybe everyone's just kind of walking on eggshells around there.
Yeah, I don't know. The culture in the New York Mets organization is something that's definitely gone downhill. And I don't know. I don't think I would want to play there if I had the opportunity to go somewhere else.
No, I think that ball club has always been kind of screwed because they've been in the shadows of the Yankees forever.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows that the Kings in New York are the Yankees, and the Mets have never been able to really produce. The only notable player that I can ever remember, apart from the young guys that are on the squad now, is Mike Piazza. And that's all I can ever really remember about the Mets, historically most notable players.
Yeah, well, I unfortunately know the names of several Mets because I've seen the replays of the 1986 World Series my entire life. So, but I don't like to talk about that.
Sure, we can just skip right over that.
But you did mention that the Yankees, and I do want to bring up the point that Giancarlo Stanton is back on the IL. And that's kind of unfortunate because that dude's been on a bit of a tear this year as well. And I say it's unfortunate because I never want to see a guy get hurt. I never want to see a guy not live up to his potential. And since coming to New York, Stanton has not lived up to his potential. This was an MVP in the National League when he played for the Marlins.
Yeah, that's tough to do. And it seems like it's his hamstring again. I don't know if that's been an injury before.
He's injured pretty much everything. So
yeah, what's up with that? I don't understand what he's doing wrong. Do you think it's that kind of violent swing like we always talk about that causes injury?
Well, he has a unique stance that most guys don't have. He has a real closed off stance, and you may be onto something. I don't know which leg it is that he has injured, but with that closed off stance, it would mean that he would have to open up a lot more to get the bat through the zone. Mm-hmm. That might be something that the Yankees need to look at and see if that is an issue, but that's pretty astute there, Zach.
Yeah. Cause I can only think of his batting is what's causing him injuries, because I mean, he's not known to steal bases and to use speed, which could only be the only other thing that would cause like a hamstring injury or something like that. So that's all I can think of is he's one of those guys that swings for the fences. And I don't know if that is affecting his health or not, but I can't think of anything else that it could be.
Yeah, I know when he did come out of the game, it was when he was trying to move up from first to second base. So he was actually running when it happened, but.
And that could be one of those things of, on his swing, he said, ooh, that didn't feel too good. Makes it to first and kind of thinks that he can just play it out. And then when he ran on the probably injured at that point hamstring, it finally said, nope, that's it. So
it's possible. Who knows?
That's just some idiot on the internet's opinion.
I mean, we're pretty right about a lot of things though, Zach. So, when we throw out our opinions, a lot of times they stick. So for those of you that watch and listen and have heard a lot of this stuff, and then you see it happening 2-3 weeks down the road, make sure you think back to that time you heard it on the Nest podcast. But Zach, we started off the episode tonight talking about the NCAA and if it cancels. If it does outright cancel, how beneficial is that to the NFL?
I mean, that opens up the entire weekend, the entire primetime TV slot is just the NFL's for the picking. And I think you're going to see Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday, maybe. I mean, they're just going to fill as much time as they can with football games.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And, if they were to put them all in a bubble, then they could just be like, okay, you guys are the Saturday at 4:00 game, and then you'll clear out and you guys will come in for the Saturday at 7:00 or 8:00 or whatever. And then you could stagger it so that you only have 2 teams in the stadiums at a time. And then it's like, okay, get on out of here, boys.
Yep.
Let's get the next game going. And that would be awesome in my opinion. But the NFL woke up this week to some new problems. And that is that the refs are opting out.
Wow. No one saw that coming, huh?
If you remember back, I think it was 2014 when they had the scab refs that started out the season because the real refs were on strike or whatever it was.
Yep.
The play that we saw then was terrible. From the refs, that is. We saw missed calls. We saw, blatant pass interferences that were ignored. And we just saw a lot of just shitty stuff on the field. Sounds like a normal year for the NFL at this point. So what I'm getting at is that the scab refs weren't as bad as we made them out to be, because the real refs are just as freaking bad. So if they don't want to be there, go on, get the hell out of here. We'll get somebody else. Bump up some of these college refs that aren't going to get to be officiating college games because those conferences and leagues have already been canceled.
Absolutely.
Promote them up to the NFL. They already know the game. The college rules and the NFL rules are slightly different, but they're officials. They obviously love the game of football. Move them on up. Give those guys the promotion.
I guarantee you they know the rules of NFL officiating by now. I mean, you've got to think that the next step up as a ref is to be called up by the major league of whatever sport that you referee. So I would assume that they all know the rules. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Another thing that makes sense to me is the NFL looking into robot referees in some aspect. And I think you can do that with a few positions. I think you can do that with the line judge to decide to determine whether or not something is a first down or whether or not a player is out of bounds or whatever. But I think that would be pretty difficult to do at this point with like the pass interference and those kind of calls that takes a real quick judgment. Humans right now are struggling to do that, even with the ability to replay and to do all the things that they can do, but don't. So I think a robot would have a hard time doing that, but I think you could definitely institute some sort of robotic referee in a lot of those little smaller aspects of the refereeing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, bowling alleys have had that technology in their lanes for decades, where if you step across the line, it buzzes and lets you know that you crossed the line.
Yep.
So how much harder would it be to do that in the NFL so that, the ball broke the plane. It is what it is. That's a touchdown, first down, out of bounds, whatever.
Right.
But you're right. The human element is involved when it comes to holding penalties or pass interference and stuff like that. And the reason that they struggle so much, even with the replays, is because nobody can give you a clear definition of what a catch is. What isn't a catch? I don't know the rules well enough because they're so vague. The NFL really does need to do a better job at addressing exactly what everything is. Otherwise, it's left up to the interpretation. And as we all know, if it's left up to a person's interpretation,
yeah, I mean, the person can get it right. They can get it wrong.
That's a good point right there. The out of bounds, you've got to make sure that both feet are in bounds in the NFL. So that would be a little bit more difficult for a robot to be able to sense that. That's a good call, Cody.
I think you can put something down on the field that says this is inbounds and this is out of bounds and make it definitive. But yeah, I mean, it's cause for concern, I guess. I just see a lot of sports going that way eventually. Right now, it's still a little wonky, and in MLB, it hasn't been perfected yet, but it's only a matter of time. As soon as one of these robotic companies gets some sort of deal from a major league sport, then it's off to the races.
Yeah, I agree. But like you said, in MLB, it's still a little wonky, so it does take some time to develop, and I don't think between now and the start of the season is enough time for the NFL to get anything like that.
Nope.
So the best thing that you can do, bring up these out of work college referees and make them your NFL referees for all the NFL spots that have been opted out of.
Yep.
We've got some news out of the NBA bubble, and I think we need to pause for a second and have a bit of a moment of silence for one of our listeners, because I know he's absolutely heartbroken and devastated. So, moment of silence for the Pelicans and Zion Williamson, and our boy Harvey. All right, that's enough. Zion's out. He is out of the playoffs. That's the whole reason that they wanted to expand the NBA playoff roster. That's the whole reason that they wanted to try to get him down there, was so that Zion can make the playoffs and be, on that primetime TV and all that stuff. Didn't even make it.
Yeah, couldn't even do it. I mean, if you look at it from the standpoint of on the positive side, Michael Jordan didn't make it to a championship until however long into his career. So I get it. But boy, was there a lot of hype on this kid. And I mean, he's nothing to scoff at.
No.
But I think to try to force it like NBA did this year was a bit ridiculous. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. They didn't make it, so they shouldn't have been there in the first place. But I guess I get it from a standpoint of trying to get people to watch the game. I don't know.
I agree with you, Zach. I think, in a normal season without the COVID delay and all that stuff, the Pelicans weren't going to make it. They were already basically on the brink of being eliminated when it got paused. With the expanded roster for the playoffs and all that stuff, that's what opened the opportunity for them to really make a run at it. I think they tried to force it. They tried to just make it to where it was a thing, and it didn't work. But you know what? The action from the bubble has been outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
All jokes aside, I've enjoyed watching the games that I've gotten to see. I've seen Damian Lillard for the Blazers just pulling up from half court. Same with Devin Booker for the Suns. These guys are just firing from all over the court and just dropping them. And it's like, dude, you guys feel like you're playing AAU again or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Speaking of Devin Booker, did you hear what happened to Draymond Green over his comments about Devin Booker?
No, what's up?
So Draymond was on some sort of analytics show, and he basically said that he thinks that Devin Booker needs to get out of Phoenix and he needs to get to a team that he can actually win with. And apparently the owner of the Suns isn't very good. He's not very enthusiastic about, going out and spending money, which I guess kind of makes sense. But Draymond had his opinion, and apparently the NBA thought that was tampering and fined him $50,000 for those comments.
Come on, man.
And see, here's the stupidest thing about that is there's no way he was trying to get Devin Booker to come to the Warriors, because there's no way Devin Booker is going to replace Steph Curry. So clearly he wasn't trying to say, hey, come on to the Warriors. He was just trying to say, you need to get yourself to a good team. I think that's good.
LeBron just outright tells guys hey, we need to link up and win us a couple championships, and that's fine. Yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's stupid.
The NBA needs to sit back and relook at some things, I think.
And so what if they are tampering? Who gives a shit? Why would you not say to a guy that you want to play with, come play on my team?
It's not like Draymond Green is signing the paychecks for the Warriors.
Exactly.
Now, I could get it if the owner was saying stuff like that to Book, but another player shouldn't. Nah, especially whenever the main star of your league right now does the exact same shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a stupid rule, in my opinion. I think they should get rid of that. You should be able to say whatever the hell you want. You should be able to say that you think that whatever player should play on any team. Who cares? Like you said, you're not the one that's making it happen.
Yep, I agree. Zach, let's move in and get the rest of these voicemails. We put out the message earlier today that we wanted to get your opinions on college football and what the cancellation would ultimately mean to you. And I do want to give a shout out to my boy Cody. He took it upon himself to share it and tag all of his friends in it and got a couple people to call in for us, and we're going to play some of those now.
Cody did not get the top fan badge by mistake. He earned it for sure.
He earned it. And you know, he's commenting all along in the comments. It's almost hard to keep up with him because he comments so much, but we do appreciate you, and we appreciate everyone that jumps in the comments and all of you that called in. So thanks a lot for that, guys.
Yep. Here's our first one. Oh, hold on. I don't know why this isn't coming through.
Because
There we go.
honestly, hi, I was calling about this college football stuff, and I am outraged because honestly, the entire world could have easily done the right thing and social distance or stayed home in a manner that which they would have lowered the infection rate. So with college football being canceled, I mean, you're talking about trillions of dollars that are not being spent on entertainment, where most of our funding comes from, and now we're not having an income at all. So it seems that the football needs to be there. I mean, it's one of those things in America that draws in a huge revenue, and even with baseball, football, any college sports in general, draw on a huge revenue, especially football. But you can't really blame the players because they probably were doing the right thing. We don't know. But now we can't watch football, and that's not good. So I'm upset, and I'm upset at the world rather than the students. I wish that people would have done the right thing from the get-go. And that's my opinion. Thanks.
I get that. If the world and America more specifically, because that's where college football happens, if we would have taken this more seriously and done what we've had to do, then we might be getting a no questions asked season. But that's not the way it is. Everyone keeps going back to this money thing. I get it that's important, but that's not the reason that this is going to happen or not happen. These presidents cannot be held responsible for an outbreak in their schools. It won't happen.
Yeah, I think ultimately them canceling fall sports is to cover their own asses. They would rather eat that $78 million for each school than risk having an outbreak on their campus and getting sued.
Absolutely.
So,
all right, we got another one.
Go ahead.
Hey guys, it's Jose calling in from Austin. I know it's been a while since the last time I checked in with y'all. Just kind of want to run something by you guys as to maybe what could be done for the future next season for MLB and football in general, with this whole clusterfuck that we have with COVID and how they just haven't been able to regulate things, and maybe take an example from the NHL and the NBA, but instead of having one or two bubble hubs, have one by each section of the country. So have one north, south, east, west, and not even just one or two for each one for the NFC, AFC, AL, NL, and so forth, to where they can have all those teams from those divisions in those hubs, have them play their games out, and then from there just kind of be able to have better control over how the season runs, to avoid people from coming up positive or getting outside the bubbles or things like that. But anyway, much love to y'all. Peace.
Okay, that was Jose. Yeah, we've talked about it pretty extensively that we think the NFL should operate in a bubble. He went a little bit further and said to break it up into two bubbles in each location, one for the AFC and one for the NFC. I don't necessarily think that that's needed, because I think you could pretty much get it to where, three bubbles along in the United States, one on the East, one in the middle, and one over on the West Coast. And just all the AFC and NFC teams from that respective region would meet there. And especially if we don't have college football, they could play on Saturday and Sunday and really take advantage of having all those teams in such a close proximity.
Yeah, but I mean, the point being is that this needs to happen in a bubble. I mean, MLB has proven that to us. Non-bubble doesn't really work out too great.
I saw a tweet earlier from the NHL, and I meant to write it down, but they've tested something like 16,000 since they've started all this, 16,000 COVID tests and 0 positives out of their bubble.
It's a miracle.
Bubbles freaking work, guys.
All right, last one.
Cool.
So I don't watch college football, but if I were to watch the NFL versus college level sports, I would definitely choose college. It is very weird that everything is just going on shutdown, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of coming together to try to figure out a solution to a lot of issues because of the pandemic. So I think the fact that the football is getting the short end of the stick, I think it's really unfair. I do see hope. I know that next year is a long way away, and that's probably not what college football fans want to hear, but at least next year seems a lot more guaranteed. I can't say for sure that they will cancel it, though. I mean, I still have hope, but it is August, so I don't see them starting it up. It'd be weird. I would imagine it to be more like a South Park episode where they just have the audience be completely empty and then they just film it. But if the players are getting COVID, that wouldn't be good. So yeah, it's sad. I don't really know what they would do. I guess I don't know. I guess maybe try to do an indoor season for a shortened period of time, maybe a month during the season or a couple months, just make it a lot shorter. But it is sad. So hopefully next year will be guaranteed, but you can't really fast track a virus and the medicine that should come along with it. This is all so odd, and there are no parameters with this virus. It keeps getting more mysterious, and yeah, hopefully everything will get back to at least a little bit more normal. But it's really sad. I apologize for making this voicemail so long. So anyway, go football! Woo!
We love the long voicemails.
So she said something funny in there. That's kind of like a South Park episode. And my mind immediately went to, they took our sports. Because that's kind of what it feels like. A lot of people are just outraged right now that sports are going away. So it does kind of seem like that they took our jobs kind of episode from South Park. So she's spot on with that one. I don't know if playing a football season indoors is actually going to be anything that they could do. I mean, I know they play in a lot of places, play in domes and stuff like that, but
I think that would be a way to play in the warmer months. But I mean, the players play their training camps and stuff like that out in the summer heat anyway. So I think they would just deal with it. If they do end up pushing the fall sports to the spring, I think they would just play wherever and just deal with it.
But to her point, she said something about shortening the season, making it a little bit less of a grind or whatever. And that's what a lot of these conferences had been talking about, was only playing an in-conference schedule, eliminating the non-conference games and stuff like that. So,
yep. Yeah, I think they could do like a 10-week season or something, and where every team in the conference plays every other team in the conference, whatever that equals out to. And you roll right into your conference championship, and that's it, and that's the wrap. And I think that could be done, but there is a slim chance that any college football is going to happen this year. And Justin and the rest of the Southern football fans, you better get ready for it. I don't think it's going to happen. I do not think that these universities are going to run the risk of being held responsible for a COVID outbreak in their schools. And it sucks. Yeah, I'm right there with you. It really sucks. But there is so many things that we've lost this year, and football is not immune to that.
You know, we didn't think we would actually lose March Madness, but it went away. It was the first one to go away for good.
Do you remember Justin's reaction to that? He thought that there was no way that they were going to cancel the March Madness tournament.
Yeah. And, you know, to his point, they never actually canceled it. They only postponed it.
Yeah. Same thing about these Cardinals games. None of them have been canceled. They've all just been postponed. God knows when.
That's their little buzzword that they put out there to make you think that it's going to still be okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, we thank you all for listening. We thank everybody that called in and shared their opinion with us. We love hearing from all of the listeners, and we have a pretty packed week this week. I know tomorrow night we'll be on here with a special episode with a dirt track race car driver named Matt James. He's going to tell us some stories of living in the fast lane, and he's also a pretty big movie buff, so we'll probably talk about some of his favorite films. And then Thursday night, Justin and I will be back talking with some more from the Elizabethton Cyclones. So that's been a fun series to be part of, and I've enjoyed getting to talk to a lot of those players and getting to interact with a lot of the people from there in Elizabethton, Tennessee. They definitely support their local football.
Yeah. Garth and I did a gaming episode on Saturday, and he is not a fan of Science Hill.
No, he is not.
He made that apparent.
Well, he's an alum from Elizabethton, and
right,
it's that crosstown rival. If you've been listening to us, you've heard every week we talk about Science Hill as week number 1, and that's what they look forward to.
Yep. Guys,
we'll be back next week on the Nest podcast, and hopefully Justin will be able to join us. We'll see you then. Peace.
I'll say this.